This is a cricket podcast.
Came home to a surprise.
Near the Denny's car park behind a dumpster, my friend and I found a cardboard cutout of 4 cricket men.
Two mates obsessed with the game.
Get Michael Rippon Wallpaper. Michael Rippon, if you listen, I think that should be a thing.
Covering all the on-field action.
Should New Zealand be more flexible with their lineup if Finn Allen goes within the first over?
This is the Back of a Length podcast.
Welcome to episode 6, season 2, episode 6, on a second season, of Back of a Length podcast. I'm Mark, still.
I'm still Renee.
Excellent. Who'd have thought that? Amazing. Unbelievable.
Right, it's Tuesday night as we record this podcast, and we're just waiting for New Zealand, India to get underway down in Napier. Rain delay again.
Standard. Whoever thought about having an absolutely no-mark T20 series in New Zealand in November off the back of a T20 World Cup?
Absolutely terrible. First game was rained out on a Friday night.
Yep, and
series? Yep.
We're hoping that Game 3 gets underway, so at least it's just not a short one-match series. But yeah, Game 2...
Because that would be terrible, because New Zealand lost that game.
That would be awful. That generally would be awful.
That would be awful. I mean, highlight of that game, though, highlight of New Zealand-India was a certain...
Surya Kumar Yadav getting 100.
Won 100.
Yeah, it was pretty epic.
Number one T20 batsman in the world.
For a reason. Didn't necessarily perform too well during the World Cup, but you can see with some of the shots that he played why he does have that number one tag. The other highlight from a New Zealand perspective, I guess, and probably our highlight, given that we obviously support New Zealand, would be Tim Southee's hat-trick.
Oh, it was beautiful. In the final over of their innings, New Zealand bowling first, and they were well on the back foot. India were about to go over 200, and Tim Southee went bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, don't think so, son.
What?
3 in a row. And you kind of thought, do you know what? Maybe that will give the impetus to New Zealand. You know, good end to the innings. They have been chasing leather for 20 overs. Maybe that'll give the impetus for the batsmen to go, yeah, sweet, we finished on a high, let's carry on that high. And then Finn Allen himself.
So I have been backing Finn Allen since, before the World Cup, since they came out of that tri-series, because I think he's such a good player. And I'm going to continue to back him. I have one point to make on Finn Allen.
Yes.
New Zealand cricket need to figure out very quickly if Finn Allen is teachable. Because he has talent, he's a good player, he's fearless, we've said all of this, but if this is where his knowledge stops, he can't continue.
Yeah, I kind of think for Finn Allen, he's possibly caught between a rock and a hard place, because he is the one player in the top 3 who will go after the ball and try and get you up to a good scoring rate in the power play. And that doesn't really give you any autonomy to try and play a situation, because you've got Devon Conway and Kane Williamson. So if Finn Allen doesn't get off to a good start and you're 20 for none after 5 overs, and then one of them gets out, then Kane Williamson comes in and you're 30 for 1 after 7 overs. That's not really a good T20 score. But if you could have Finn Allen going, do you know what? Yeah, I'm going to play a situation. I'm going to bat the first 3 or 4 overs. Maybe find a boundary, one boundary and over. And then I'm going to just figure out the situation, take the lacquer off the ball, stop it from swinging, and then I'm going to go hard. But then you've got Devon Conway at the other end, who is also doing the same. So we go back to that. Do you want to be 20 for none after 5 overs? But you're kind of going to be 20 for 1 after 5 overs anyway if Kane Williamson comes in. So I don't think Finn Allen is necessarily the problem. The other caveat to that is if you drop Finn Allen, who comes into open long term?
Well, the question is, should Mitchell go back to the top? And Daryl Mitchell did open in the T20 World Cup last year, quite successfully in that semi-final. The question that was raised by the commentators on Sunday night was, should New Zealand be more flexible with their lineup? If Finn Allen goes within the first over, should it actually not be Conway and Williamson? Should it be Mitchell being elevated up that order into the third spot, so you still have that sort of more firepower, as we've been saying, rather than 2 accumulators at the crease who are just going to basically have a low strike rate?
Yeah, I definitely think there's weight to that. And if New Zealand do want to go down the route of always having a blaster at the crease, you could also look at bringing in someone like Michael Bracewell into the squad. There's, we were talking before we started this podcast about why you haven't got Michael Bracewell. What's the point of having Michael Bracewell in this squad?
Yeah.
If you're not going to play him in this team, he came off such a great Super Smash season last season. Didn't get a look in during the T20 World Cup. I mean, that innings at Pukakura Park where he scored was 147 off about 50 balls.
Super Smash.
You know, somebody there who has a really good strike rate, obviously. It's pretty awesome, and can hit a good ball long. If Finn Allen goes, could you not put Michael Bracewell on at number 3?
Well, my biggest concern with Michael Bracewell not being on the field for the World Cup and then again for this series and potentially the upcoming ODI series is New Zealand's domestic ODI series is now underway as well. So he should just be playing there and playing cricket because he's going to get rusty on the side.
Yeah, for sure. You would imagine that he will be in the test squad to go to Pakistan.
Yeah.
So if he's not going to be playing domestic cricket and then he's going to be called up to play in Pakistan, he's not played cricket for the last 6 months.
Through no fault of his own.
For sure, yeah. So this would be an ideal opportunity. You know, hopefully you get to go in the ODIs, which are starting at the weekend. And if he's not getting to go in the ODIs, I'm not going to say that you shouldn't take him to Pakistan because you absolutely have to take him to Pakistan. But if he doesn't perform, that's not his fault. That is a New Zealand selection issue.
Yeah, speaking of ODIs, they start on Friday in Auckland. Hopefully no rain because hopefully we will be able to go. New Zealand are going to make 2 changes to their squad from this current T20 squad. Matt Henry and Tom Latham come in and Ish Sodhi and Blair Tickner go out. Which,
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
New Zealand pitches don't generally spin that much. Maybe Christchurch and Hamilton are the 2, but for Eden Park, it's probably a good call to take out one of your spinners. You'll have Mitchell Santner who does bowl pretty well.
And you'll have Michael Bracewell.
And, well, will you have Michael Bracewell?
Might have
Who
Michael
knows?
Bracewell.
But yeah, I think it's a solid enough squad. Ideally this game that we're currently watching at the moment will go through its entirety to give New Zealand a win, to give them the confidence to go into that ODI series. I feel like New Zealand at the moment, the way their squad is made up, is better suited to ODI cricket. Talking about the Conway, the Williamsons, the Mitchell issue, they've got more time to accumulate and then hit the pedal hard in the last sort of 10 overs.
Yeah, but actually...
and that's how New Zealand got to the World Cup final in 2019. They were the first team to go, right, okay, we're going to, get to a decent score after 40 overs and then we're going to try and double our score, I think was the plan. After get to 30 overs, and then double your score from 35 overs. So the idea is 10 and over in the last 10 overs to get another 100 on top of the 250 odd that you've already got is the plan. Yeah,
well, apart from the recent series in Cairns against Australia where New Zealand cricket and the Black Caps essentially lost their minds, New Zealand have been playing ODIs really well. They've won against the Netherlands, Ireland, Scotland, West Indies. I know they're lower tier teams, but I think they've got a good lineup for their ODI. Team, so we'll see what happens. Always nice to take down India at home, so fingers crossed. Right, because there hasn't actually been that much cricket on because of the rain, we thought we'd bring in a guest this week.
Yeah.
We've brought my flatmate Zena in to share her cricket knowledge.
Yeah, do you have any cricket knowledge? What's your baseline? What's the basic understanding of cricket?
Okay, guys, so there are 2 teams that will play in a game with a ball and a bat. One different team with the ball and one team with the bat.
Yep.
And they will try to hit the wickets. And
who tries to hit the wicket?
No, you're not wrong.
The ball, the team with the ball will throw the ball to try to hit the wickets.
Oh, that's pretty good.
And the team with the bat will try to hit the ball away from the wickets.
That's not bad.
That is really good. To the point where Renee is out of a job now on the podcast. I think your knowledge exceeds Renee's.
That is true. But you also know some players because there's a little bit of a story where one day I was out and I came home to a surprise.
Yes, I had breakfast with a friend at Denny's. And near the Denny's car park behind a dumpster, my friend and I found a cardboard cutout of 4 cricket men.
And you knew who they were?
I knew that they were cricket men, and one of them is Martin Guptill.
That's true. Yes, we have a cardboard cutout in our house. So we've got Martin Guptill and Mitchell Santner. Colin Munro and Lockie Ferguson cheering us on, and they look mighty fine, I must say.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Though we have brought you here because you have some burning questions about cricket that we thought we could answer, because often you just stand behind me and hover and then ask questions. So first off, a question about the ball and a new rule in cricket.
Yes, well, Renee, I saw a tweet from you. At time of recording, Twitter is still available. You had shared a law 41.3, no saliva. It says, when cricket resumed following the onset of COVID-19, playing conditions were written in most forms of the game, stating that applying saliva to the ball was no longer permitted. MCC's research found that this had little or no impact on the amount of swing the bowlers were getting. Players were using sweat to polish the ball, and this was equally effective. The new laws will not permit the use of saliva on the ball, which also removes any grey areas of fielders eating sugary sweets to alter their saliva to apply to the ball. Using saliva will be treated the same way as any other unfair methods of changing the condition of the ball. And the question I have about that is, what?
I had the question when that rule came out of, can they still eat sweets on the field if they're hungry?
So they can still eat sweets as long as that application isn't being provided to the ball. So you generally would like to have one side that's rough, and then you use your saliva and then you wipe it on your crotch, generally, is where most players do it.
That's
so
true.
that there's a shiny side, because then one side becomes heavier than the other, which is generally the shinier side, because there's a little bit more weight to the ball. So then it swings towards the heavier side in the air. So you get the ball either swinging into a batsman or away from a batsman, depending on which side of the ball is heavier.
And to make that a little bit more simpler, that helps with them hitting the wicket. And so that you're not just throwing the same...
It's not just going straight all the time.
Straight. So
Sometimes
it's going...
it curves in, sometimes it curves away.
And
I refuse to believe the saliva has an impact.
Well, apparently it doesn't.
Well,
that's what they're saying.
that's
It
what they're
doesn't.
saying, yeah.
You can just use sweat.
It's not necessarily the saliva, it's the application of the moisture to the ball, because that makes it slightly heavier on one side.
Are cricket players also physicists?
They are.
A lot of them
They're
actually are very
also-
smart, yeah.
Yeah, they're also meteorologists, because I remember when I used to play cricket, we'd look up and go, no, we're not going to play today, there's going to be too much rain around. So we become meteorologists, physicists.
We become.
I'm a cricketer. I played very poorly.
And
Yeah.
did it rain on those occasions?
Well, he lived
Yeah.
in England, so it
Yeah,
rained
exactly.
all the time.
Yeah. You could wake up and not play cricket and go in for a bit of rain today.
But it's still okay to sweat on the ball.
Usually they usually take the sweat off their forehead with their fingers and put it on the ball. They don't just get the ball and start like rubbing it.
So the idea behind that law was obviously after COVID, was to
Still
try and
gross.
not spread the whole COVID virus
With your spit ball.
Yeah. But I
But
guess my
the sweat
question to
ball
that
is
is,
still
okay. Yeah,
do
'cause
you
you-
not sweat COVID? You can just spit COVID? How does that work?
I don't think you can sweat COVID,
Interesting, because I got sweaty when I got COVID.
but you're not infectious.
I think the sweat is not infectious.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
It's still
Okay.
gross
Oh, yeah, generally.
to deliberately sweat on this item that is shared amongst the team.
Yeah. And just back to the other point, if you were a cricketer, which candy would you want to eat on the field?
Well, jelly babies is quite a common one because there's so much sugar content in a jelly
yeah.
baby because it is 99% sugar. So that's why the whole Kevin Peterson versus India saga kicked off, because he threw jelly babies apparently at the batsman as they were trying to hit the ball.
That's hilarious.
To try and put
Okay, the
them off.
question has developed a second question,
Of course.
Excellent.
which is also what?
He was trying to put them off, so he was apparently throwing jelly babies at the batsman as they were going to hit the ball. Because if you're getting hit in the head with a
That's
jelly baby...
illegal, by
as
the
you-
way.
Oh, yeah, you can't do that. So if you're trying to hit the ball and you're getting hit in the head with a jelly baby, you're like, oh, what's that? And then you've missed the ball, so you get bowled and you're like, oh, for crying out loud, I've been bowled. Like, stop hitting me with jelly babies, man.
And do you think sometimes people get confused if it's a jelly baby coming at them or if it's just Tom Latham?
I think they're both one and the same, to be honest, yeah.
Is he a tiny man?
He is quite little, yes.
Could put in 11 of tiny people at some point in this podcast episode.
Surely the
I can't
trajectory...
say 11.
The 11 of vertically challenged cricketers.
Surely the trajectory of the ball is determined by the movement of the hand.
Yeah, but if you're solely your sole concentration is based on this ball coming towards you, and then a jelly baby goes across your eyes, you're going to be like, "Oh, I didn't expect that coming. Where did that come from?" And your concentration goes. Bearing in mind you've got 0.104 of a second or something like that to react when a ball is thrown. That's how quickly it comes at you. You have 0.1 of a second. So if you've got something that takes that concentration away, whether it be something, see, exactly like that.
Just threw something
Renee
at
just
Mark.
threw a book at me. Not the book. She didn't throw the book at me. She threw a book at me. Yeah, if your concentration's gone for that split seconds, that is all you have to react to a ball. So that's why you can't just go around throwing things at batsmen. I mean, we should just say you shouldn't really go around throwing things at anyone, really, unless you have a really good reason to do so. Like you're a bowler and you're throwing the ball at the batsman. Which is kind of the basis of this podcast, really, yeah.
That's how cricket works, as you've explained.
Yeah. Any other burning questions that you would like a really in-depth answer to? And then Renee's simple cut. Renee explains better to people than I do.
How long does cricket go for, and why does it go for so long?
Well, it either goes for 3.5 hours if it's a T20, or 8 hours if it's a ODI, or 5 days if it's a test, unless a team gets bowled out earlier than those times, or it rains. And if it rains, sometimes it goes for longer.
And if it rains, sometimes it doesn't go at all.
Yeah.
There's so many different permutations around the length of a cricket game. But they did bring in the 5-day rule because test matches used to go on, so that's the long, that's one that goes for days. It would carry on going until there was a result. So sometimes it could last for weeks.
Yeah, no, and it's a true story, and they had to change that back about 100 years ago because England missed their ship home.
Yes, correct.
What?
Planes weren't invented at that stage,
Yeah.
so they had to get a ship over to Australia, which would take them about 3 months.
Yeah.
And they'd play. It ended up the series went on for ages, and they obviously had to book a ship back because there's not that many ships going to and from Australia on that day, or that time, and they missed their ship back to the UK. And then they stayed there, and that's how David Warner came about. So the English team, if that law had been invented, could have saved the whole David Warner fiasco. Your next question is, who's David Warner?
I know Shane Warne.
Close relation, just missed in the R. Yeah, very close relation.
Is there a limit to the size of the glove that the catcher can wear?
I think by catcher you mean the wicket keeper. And I do. This is a good question because one time you did ask why doesn't he wear gloves the size of the roof?
And then he can catch it, like if he wears the size, like a very big glove, then it will always.
I mean,
Get
he
the
does.
ball.
He does have to stand there, as we mentioned, for 3 hours to 5 days, so his hands might get sore,
Okay.
and he also might just hit another player.
And also, if he's wearing short sleeves, that tan line would be hilarious if
Yeah.
he's wearing gloves for 5 days in Australia, because they would go down to his hand and then the hand would just be white.
Oh, you said something wrong. Something about them having to keep extra balls in case the ball goes out of the
yes.
ground.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, so they have a box of balls, and they are all different
Conditions.
Yeah. Because when you start a cricket innings, you get a brand new ball, brand new out of the packet.
Every time?
Every time.
Wasteful.
No, it's not wasteful because then they go in the box of balls.
So if you have a ball that lasts for 30 overs, and then you go to a game and the ball after 30 overs that they're using sucks, they'll grab the other ball that is about 30 overs old and over as 6 balls.
Yeah.
And they'll grab that because it's mimicking a similar condition to the ball that has been selected for that match.
Also, if a player hits a 6 and it goes out of the ground and the ball is lost, they can't bring out a brand new ball.
Because that would be unfair
That'd
to
be
the
unfair.
bowling team.
So they bring out a ball that's roughly the same condition as another.
Yeah. Cricket is a very simple sport, as you
Yeah.
can tell. Yeah, there's not that many rules.
How many balls are in the box?
You get a box of 6.
Oh, six.
Yeah.
They should just make it out of something better.
I can't imagine that there's many materials that would be conducive to not snapping a wooden bat, but would also be keeping its structural integrity over 80 overs when it's being whacked by a big wooden bat.
Well, then the
But
bat
there
should
is
be better.
newer technology available these days, so maybe that is something that they should look into.
There you go. We can champion that here on
Yeah,
the podcast.
I think we should. Yeah. Awesome to have you on. Thank you for joining
Thanks
us.
for joining us.
Thank you. It's been a thrill and a delight.
It's time for the first 11 of the week. So this week, as you just heard, Zena brought those cardboard cutouts of the Black Caps home. And I thought, that's lovely that there's 4 of them. But I'm not going to lie, one of them is not my favourite.
Are you going to say which one?
It's Colin Munro. So I thought, let's do a first 11 of which players I would like to have cardboard cutouts. Like if I could have 11 players lined up in my house, which 11 would you want?
Michael Rippon. 1 to 11, left to right.
Just pasted all around my house.
Yeah. Get Michael Rippon wallpaper. Michael Rippon, if you're listening, I think that should be a thing. Just get your face and plaster it all over somebody's wall on a wallpaper roll.
Please do that. I would want that for Christmas. There you go. It's my Christmas present.
Excellent. All right.
Okay. No, we did not do 11 Michael Rippons. I will warn you, because you're going to say this. I'm a sucker for a fast bowler. So this is not the best batting lineup, but oh my gosh, this is.
I didn't realise Michael Rippon bowled right arm pace.
He does. He can bowl anything. All right.
Especially you over.
Ooh. All right. In at 1, AB de Villiers. At 2, Alistair Cook. 3, Fafa du Plessis.
All good fast bowlers.
In at 4. In at 4, Kane Williamson, of course.
Yeah.
5, Dale Steyn. 6, Michael Rippon. 7, Mitchell Santner, who we have got on the wall. So I thought, you know what, Mitchell, you can stay.
It's a good photo.
It's a good photo. Neil Wagner in at 8. 9, Adam Milne. 10, Jimmy Anderson.
Oh, he's gone. Sorry, Finn Allen is LBW as we speak. Another failed innings from Finn Allen. It was a bit of a hoik across the line to a big ducking in-ducker. And if he hasn't hit it, which given the fact that they're suggesting he shouldn't go to DRS, means that he hasn't hit it, and it was plumb for me.
Well, thank goodness I didn't put him in my first 11 of cardboard cutouts, because number 11 was Lockie Ferguson. Next week, we will bring you the results of those first 2 ODIs. And if you ever want to get in touch, we are on all the socials at Back of a Length, Instagram, Twitter for now, as long as it lasts, and Facebook.
Excellent. Until then, until next week, go to Black Caps.
Woo!
I'd say go England, but we're getting pummeled by Australia as we speak. No. So, yeah, it doesn't matter. We hold 2 World Cups, so I told you I was going to segue that in there somehow.
That's it. Episode done.
Bye.
Bye.